Welcome to NuttieBuddie Entertainment. The Great.
Let's start with The Great. Let's see here. Let's get Sarah. Sarah, what's one of your greats of the movie?
I would say Christian Bale and by extension Gore. I mean, Christian Bale is such an elite actor and like he brought the same intensity to this that he does with everything he's in, which I enjoyed. Even I feel like there's so many things that I think are positive that there's also like a flip side to it that's also a negative, but we'll get into that. But like I thought Gore was an extremely interesting character. I've seen compared online to like he's got the best motivation since like or the most sympathetic motivation since like Killmonger and Black Panther, and I completely agree with that. I think like you get why he's doing what he's doing. You get the malevolent he's cursed vibe, but also like I loved the scene. I can't remember the specific dialogue, but like when he's in the cage with the kids, and it's also like he's creepy and he's scaring them, but there's also like that part of him that it's like, oh yeah, he's still a dad and he's trying to like entertain these kids and it's going horribly awry. Like I think it was a great balance, I thought, of and showed like a great range for Christian Bale to be like, yeah, he's a monster, but there's also like this human element to him. So I thought they knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah, Chris, it looks like you agree.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the best scenes in the movie as well, because like, yeah, he is like really creepy and gross and weird, but then he's also kind of got like a hello puppet, like sort of a sort of a little bit of whimsy, just a touch of it in there too, where he's not just like fully evil. He's got just a little bit of charm also. So that was a great scene.
Yeah. Did you like the villain as well?
Yeah, he would be a great for me. That would be my number one choice as well.
Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, I had Gore as my great as well. Same reasons that Sarah had him. I thought, his motivation was great. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on the sword, just because that kind of gave him his path to get to eternity. Like that's the thing that told him what he needed to do to seek this revenge. But all in all, he was a standout villain and he did a great job acting in this. And anytime he was on the same screen with everybody else, it just elevated everything.
Yeah, I really liked him as a villain as well. I thought his, like Sarah mentioned, we could all sympathize with the fact that he devoted his life to something that let him down, and then like the sword kind of like what's it called, empowered him to seek the revenge not on just the god that he served but others as well. I would say like, obviously the two things that I would say that I didn't like, I still think he's in the great just because of his acting and his motivation, but I didn't need a redemption story from him. Once again, a villain, I just want, like some villains, we can sympathize with them without having them be redeemed. I feel that way. So I didn't need him to be redeemed. And then I would like to have seen him do some of his work. Like we got to see what he did to Lady Sif without actually seeing like, and then, I just wish we would have seen how dangerous he was to the other gods when he was like cutting them down.
Yeah, that's what I meant with like, it's a positive, but then there's like a negative side to it. Cause it's like, he's called a god butcher, but I feel like we only saw him kill one god. Like, come on, let's give us more than that. You can fit that scene in there, or a montage, whatever you will, of him traveling planet to planet, taking them out. Like that would add so much to this movie.
Yeah, it's the same issue with Multiverse of Madness. It's in the title, we get like such a little glimpse of like the multiverse, not too much into it. It's the same thing with the God Butcher. We only get like a little bit, but they just like glance over it and kind of go more into a different side of the story. But is it a redemption story? Like, did he redeem himself though, Ryan? Because I feel like the sword, like that was, you had to destroy the sword to get him back to like normal.
Right, and then he redeemed himself by choosing to do the right thing instead of...
Yeah, but once the sword was, destroyed, he didn't have that like evil presence over him anymore.
Yeah, he also was still ultimately punished because he died. So
Well, would you
I
say
guess
like would you say Vader was redeemed at the end of Jedi?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
It's sort of the same concept, right? He like
Yeah.
overcame Darth Vader, and once he
Yeah.
was able to overcome Vader, he killed Palpatine, and then he died.
Mhm.
He was redeemed in a sense. I mean,
Actually, it's not even an opinion. It's just factual because he's seen as a Force ghost, with
yeah.
Ben and Yoda. So
correct. So I kind of view it the same way as like, because like the sword, right? It just enhanced his, like it corrupted more of his motivations, right? Because he probably wanted revenge on that deity that he was serving at the time, right? For his daughter dying.
Yeah, but I mean, he wouldn't have, the sword like called him to that spot where he like went through those woods because its wielder had died. So it was looking for another person because it constantly got passed on, trying to get like someone to kill all of the gods. So its motivation throughout eternity is to get to eternity and kill all of the gods. So if, it called to him and then gave him the motivation to kill the gods, because he himself didn't want that until he met a god. And then, he then got corrupted by it to, kill that god and then kill other ones, because that was the sword's motivation.
What would the sword had been able to call to him though if he didn't lose his daughter?
That's a good question. I think
and then get mad at his god, because wasn't he you saw it twice, so wasn't he looking at that statue, not the statue, the when his daughter died in his hand, basically they were both holding that like whatever it was that they prayed to or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
he was previously, but like when she died, he was just sleeping on the ground, like ready to die himself. And then all of a sudden he woke up because this thing was calling to him. So he went towards it. And once he got there, I think the sword like knew the motivation. Like if he sees who this is, then he'll want to, renounce him. And then I don't think he wanted to exactly like kill him at first. And I think that was more of the sword, like giving him its powers of darkness and stuff like that. So
okay, one last question. We don't have to debate, but
no, it's all good.
So he didn't have the sword's influence though when he meant the infinite though, and he had to be talked out of making the wish to kill all the gods at that point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So he still had that as a motivation. So then
but once I feel like once Thor like was able to like talk to him and be like, this isn't what you actually want, he kind of then like snapped out of it, because I don't know if the sword was still like lingering with like influence, and that was his motivation for, I don't know how long it had been since, his daughter had died. But that's the thing. I think they did a really poor job of like showing that the sword was more controlling him than it was actually like Gore's purpose to do this by himself.
So you wouldn't say this is a redemption?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's why I had mentioned it. I don't personally think it's like a redemption of him, wanting to do all of this, because if it wasn't for the sword, he wouldn't have got this motivation at all. And once it was, gone, I feel like he was turning more back into the Gore before than like the one that was under the influence. As you can see, as his like skin starting to clear up, his teeth aren't like black and everything anymore. So
okay, that's fair. I mean we can look at it both ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
That is a discussion.
Yeah, that is not as intense as me and Luke. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
I have a couple comments about that opening scene. Did anyone else think that the very first scene when he's wandering through the desert and he's all like dehydrated and his skin's all like scabby, did anyone else think that was CGI instead of makeup? Or is that just me? I was looking at it and I thought it looked like CGI.
I thought it was real.
It was all real. I saw an interview with him, and it took him like I think they got the makeup down to like 6 hours or so. But yeah, he went through all of that.
Well, I'm not talking about when he's like the God Butcher and like gray.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
Like the very, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Then that's just me. But then my second thought on that scene is when he uses the sword, surprisingly gory. They made it like gold blood, but it's like, sword like, in the neck. Surprisingly gory.
Yeah, I had that thought too when I was trying to think of like why wouldn't they have had scenes where he's like butchering gods? Because it's like they kind of like crossed the threshold of it being like, yeah, it's pretty violent. So that shouldn't have really been a concern going forward if establishing more scenes of him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I also did love the makeups / shots of when he is the God Butcher. And they kind of made him look like a skeleton, like when he's in like the shadows, like his eyes are glowing like gold, and like it looks like he doesn't have like cheeks or whatever. I thought that was kind of a cool effect.
He sort of looked a little like, you guys ever see Bill and Ted's Bogus Event?
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of looks like death,
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you guys ever see the comic book version of him? How he's supposed to look in the comics?
Gore?
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Yeah, he I wish they would have tried to capture that look a little better, but I do like the way he looks in this one.
He would have had to do a whole bunch of like prosthetic stuff.
Yeah, it would have been a flat nose and then sort of like So I get it, but it's still cool, a cool character, good villain. Let's go on to our next grade. Let's see, Brian, what's your first grade after Gore?
My first grade would be Jane. I love what they did with her in this movie. Her character development, her being the mighty Thor, was awesome to see her in the armor. And then her whole background of, they took from the comic books, but her having cancer and like that journey going through it. As well as like they took on some creativity with the hammer, because in the comic books, the hammer is just one piece, but the just multi-pieces being able to break up together and then like use that was really awesome. I love what they did with her in this.
Yeah, I agree. I even like the hammer. We talked about that, just like how it split into 60 million pieces and came back together. And I kind of like that they did a little bit of creativity with that as well. Any other thoughts on Jane? No? Go ahead, Chris.
I thought her whole character arc, I'd say probably more of a good than great for me, but I did really like how Gore and hers arcs kind of paralleled each other, where they're given this weapon that gives them great power and helps them achieve their goals and their dreams, but it's also like slowly like poisoning them and killing them. So I thought that was, as far as writing and maybe a weaker movie, I thought that was a pretty nice parallel storyline. That was pretty clever.
Agreed.
Yeah, one question I did have is, so if Gore did fulfill his thing and like he wished all the gods away, he basically had the powers of a god. Would he have then died too?
No, I think because the powers came from the sword. He wasn't he wasn't a powerful being himself. So So I think he would have been okay. Okay, let's see. Chris, you got your first grade? Thanks so much for listening to Brian, Sarah, Chris, and I break down some of Thor: Love and Thunder. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. What is your great, good, bad, and ugly? If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, click on one of the links below or search NuttieBuddie wherever you find or listen to podcasts. We should be available there. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and as always, thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll talk to you guys soon.